Hi guys, Nigel here with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench, with another review. Can't do much modelling this weekend because I've got like an RSI on my hands or something. I'll have a go later on. Anyway, so it's about time I've done a review of this airbrush. This is the Bart Sharp Airbrush 186 airbrush kit. And I've bought this from Alison over at Bart Sharp. And said I do a review for, and I said I always do honest reviews. So you know, what I tell you is honest. This isn't like television like you'll sometimes see. This is going to be an honest review of this airbrush. And what I intend to do is first of all talk about the features, look at what we're getting in the package, and then look at how it works. And also I'm going to discuss in the initial part of the video the price, because the features for the money, it's absolutely outstanding. So what we'll do is first of all look at it. I'll start first of all with a complaint. When I got this, it was all over the place. It had obviously been upside down in its box, and everything had come out of its foam location and was just rattling around. Now even one of the little pots holding the nozzles was loose, so the nozzle was just, because that could have got damaged. So what I would suggest, Alison, Bart Sharp, put this foam around the LEDs in your big cabinet number 04, which I reviewed a couple of weeks ago. Maybe if you put this inside here like that, then close the lid, it will stop everything falling out. So I think that's just a little packaging tip for you there. Maybe I don't know if you've had any damage or not, but certainly it was all rattling around. So first of all, I want to talk about, in fact we'll get it open and we'll get all the glare off the light. So basically what we've got here is a complete airbrush kit that really the novice or the professional could use with great ease. Obviously I say professional, I don't know how good it is yet, I haven't used it, but you know, we're going to see how good it comes out. Ignore the little bits of wet. I stupidly opened it after I've been doing some resin, and tiny flecks of resin were statically attracted to the box. So basically what we're getting in here is a dual action gravity feed airbrush, okay, and it's fitted with a 0.3 nozzle and needle. We're getting a spare 0.2 nozzle and needle. We've got the needles over here, the nozzles are in there, and we also get a 0.5. So if we want to do some really fine work with some extremely thin paint, like mottling camouflage on an aircraft or whatever, we can use this 0.2. If we're wanting to spray with this stuff, as we know, this stuff can become a bit of a nightmare to paint with because it's so thick, we can use the 0.5, and we're going to give that a go. So that's something else you're getting in here. We've got 3 interchangeable top feed paint cups, so it's a gravity fed gun. So you've got this one is 2cc, this one is 5cc, and this one is 13cc. So if you're spraying the 148 Lancaster or something, it's going to be great to have the black in that one. But if you're only doing like cockpit and internal details, just use that one. Interchangeable, it's great. As long as they seal, they should be really good. We've got a micro air control valve on the actual airbrush itself, so you can set your compressor to like 30 psi, whatever you want, and then you can use that valve to adjust the pressure you're spraying at. Disadvantage of that is you don't know, so you can't tell someone I'm doing this at 20 psi, but you can get it right for yourself, and you will learn yourself by the sound and how it's going and the flow. You will learn yourself what you want. If you don't use that, just open it up, set your compressor to what pressure you want and go for that. What some people would suggest is set your compressor to like 40 psi or something, and then use that valve to control it. Problem then is you've constantly got all your airline, your fitting, your couplings, everything, the valve in there, everything has got 40 psi on it, so it's best to keep your pressures down if you can. You've got a rear handle cutout, so on here you've got a knob where you can adjust the actual stroke, and I will show you that when we do the test in a minute. We've got the needle adjustment screw, so that's obviously in the back of there inside. We've got a 1.8 meter air hose included, which is a nice touch, nice long hose. A mini airline filter, which is great. If you've got one of the cheaper compressors, you've got no filter, then that's great for catching water and stuff, especially in the winter, or here in the UK when it's always bloody wet. We've got a quick release coupler. Now we've got a quick release coupler and a quick release coupler. Bart Sharp have had the very clever thought, rather than just giving you one, they're giving you the other part as well. So you would connect that to your airbrush, and then you've got this part which you could also connect to your other airbrush. So it's alright having a quick release coupler, but the whole reason for having it is if you've got more than one airbrush. Brilliant idea, great, well thought out. We've got the full range of spares in stock, so if anything goes wrong, they've got the spares you need at Bart Sharp. It comes with a 1-year warranty and it has free UK shipping. Now, all of that there, okay, let's just bear in mind, I've mentioned this before, this is my Iwata, this is my Revolution BR. Now, bearing in mind this is like 127 quid, I think, 130 quid retail. I was told by a dealer just the nozzle is £55 for this airbrush. Now, if you bear that in mind, and then you consider that this kit here, all of this I've just talked about, oh, you've got a spanner as well for the needle, for the nozzle, sorry. All of that there, right, £50.99. I think it's absolutely amazing for £50.99. It's, you know, even if it's not brilliant, I'll use it for primers and stuff. You know, I need to get an airbrush dedicated to metallics, so I'm hoping this is going to be really good, and then I can dedicate one of my other airbrushes to metallics, because I hate having to clean them out all the time. So let's have a look at it. So we get it out of the packet. It feels very nice. Straight away it feels quite heavy, which is always nice. It's not cheap, you know, cheap metal, cheap cast junk, you know, white monkey metal like carburetors and stuff are made of. So it's got a nice weight to it. We've got a rubber O-ring in there, so we have to make sure we don't lose that. So we can screw in, we'll start off with the medium-sized cups. We screw in the cups, and we're going to be very, very careful not to cross-thread them. A little tip, if you have got fine threads, screw them the wrong way first, and then screw them in. If you screw them the wrong way first, it tends to square them up. Okay, so you can pull that down, you can feel that going down onto that O-ring. And there we go. And then with this one, we've got a cup as well on the top. Blimey, that's tight. Oh, blimey. That's just on a wedge, so there's no rubber seals or anything there, so you don't need to push that in that tight. But it's always nice. You've probably seen me do it once or twice when I'm airbrushing, spraying away, that, and you splash them out the top, which is another problem with this one. With this Iwata, it's a lovely little airbrush. I mean, it's brilliant quality, but the cup is very small, and if you get it more than like half filled, especially if you're spraying it down into detail, it comes, and generally it will spill off onto your model. It won't fall off anywhere else. So there we go. So we've got the airbrush here. Now, we'll just move this out of the way a minute. So just to show you the airbrush, we've got the medium cup on there, and we've got the cap. Now, the backstop is on here, okay? So basically what's happening, if you are new to airbrushing, when you push down, that gets air. When you pull back, that brings the needle back. Okay, you can see the needle moving back here as I pull that back. So if you were doing something like the mottled camouflage on the size of an ME109 or something, all right, and you want to get a consistent flow. Okay, if you keep coming back like this, you may be good, and you can use your finger to come back the same amount. So you go in with air, in with the paint, off with the air, off with the paint, sorry, off with the air, and that is how you avoid spitting. Now, this backstop, you set it, and it only allows you to go back so far. Okay, so if we're doing stuff like that mottled camouflage, you come down with your air, come back to the stop, paint, let go, or go forward. And it's always going to come out the same. You're not going to accidentally get a big puddle or anything, which is a really nice touch. So combination of using your micro air and your backstop, you can get a consistent flow, and I'll show you all that in a minute. You've also got the needle adjustment screw there. Okay, so you'd always have that closed up anyway, I think. But so there we go. Now if you have a cheaper compressor and you don't have a filter, then you can just screw this onto the bottom of here. Okay, so that can go on like that. All right, and that'll be your little water trap, and then when the water gets trapped in there, you press that little nozzle there, and it will eject the water into a little cup or something. And then you would put your air hose, you would put your quick release onto the bottom of there. Be careful with that plastic thread. Okay, so you screw your quick release onto there, and then you put your quick release onto the end of your air hose. In fact, I'm not going to use that air hose, I'm going to use my existing one. Okay, so we've got an existing air hose here. Okay, so we'll screw our quick release into there. Make sure we've got all the O-rings present, and then we pull that down. Whoops, and I can put this quick release onto my Iwata. So now I can easily change between the two. So let's just put the compressor on. So there we go. I can use my Iwata. Okay, quick release, no air leaks. Put that onto there, no air leaks. Now I can use my Bart Sharp. So that's what's really good about this. they've had the forethought to put two of the males in there, one female. So there we go. So that's all a bit cumbersome with that weight and everything on there with that filter. I've got an Iwata compressor, so I'm lucky I've got a filter in mine. One of the biggest problems with having these actually on the airbrush is the fact that when you put it down, if you've got any water in there, it's likely to get into the filter. So you need to sort of make sure you try and keep it vertical. Don't put it down after you've cleaned it or anything, or indeed empty it out. Or if you've got a compressor with a filter on, you don't need to use it. So I'm not going to use it. So I can remove that. Okay, so I can take this off of here. There we go. I notice it's got spanner flats on there. You do not need to put this on with a spanner, I can assure you. Okay, so there's that one in there, and then this one can go in here. Make sure the O-ring's present or it will leak. Okay, so here we go. I plug that into there. Alright, that's in there now. So you can hear now I've got 20 psi, and this little valve on the bottom, I can wind this in. And you can hear there, just winding that screw, you can hear how it's changing the air. Okay, so we've decided we're going to finish with this one, so we clean it all out and everything, get that all cleaned out, and then we decide we want to go into some small detail work. Again, turn it right. Oops. Turn it right and then turn it left so you don't damage the threads. There we go. Okay, so there we are. That's your small cup fitted. Brilliant, absolutely no complaints whatsoever. So we've got a 0.3 nozzle and needle in there. Now I know that my Iwata is fitted, it's either a 0.3 or 0.35. So at the moment, as a direct comparison, these two airbrushes with this valve wide open. Okay, so the compressor is set on roughly 20 psi, it normally is. So we've got 20 psi there. 20 psi there. So what we can do is do a direct comparison with our 0.3 needles, okay, and see how it goes. So let's have a look how it works out. Just one final thing I didn't mention, guys. Some air compressors have a 1/8 BSP fitting, which I think is what this one is. Some have a 1/4 BSP. So it's based to you have a converter in there, so you can fit either. So again, make sure your O-ring's in there, fit that onto there, and then you're good to go. Okay, so always something nice to have. It's nothing worse than getting your airbrush home and then finding you haven't got the converter and you can't use it anyway. You may as well not have it at all. So it's very thoughtful they put that in there for you as well. And the other thing I was going to say is in the bottom of the box we've also got this breakdown here. So you've got an exploded diagram of the airbrush with all the different parts and everything named and numbered. So if you do need any spares, you can just get in touch with Alison at Bart Shop and she can sort you out with the spares you need. Not sure about the high quality of it. It's obviously not going to be as high quality as an Iwata. You know, that's like comparing a Ford Focus to a bloody Lamborghini. But, you know, is it good enough for the job? Is it going to last a long time? Will it wear out quickly? Watch this channel. I'll keep using it and I'll let you know. But right now we're going to get some paint in it and do some testing. Right, so I was hoping to do this in my shiny new spray booth, which I haven't even used yet. I haven't done any airbrushing at all since I bought that spray booth. So I was hoping to use that, but I can't get the camera so you can see what's going on and stuff. So it's much easier just to do overhead, and I'll have to put up with the smell. For this test, I'm using Tamiya XF1 and Tamiya's lacquer thinner. This is not the retarder type. So basically, it's not very nice to be breathing in. You should be doing this with a mask extraction. I've got the window open, so what I will do actually often helps is I will put the fan on. So I have a fan blowing across the workbench out of the window, so that often helps. I've got Jess under my bloody feet. She always sits under my feet and then bites me if I move my feet. So here we've got the paint, 50-50 mix in a 2 centilitre cup. There's about 4.6 grams in there. So I normally mix in the airbrush, as you know, but just to not upset those that don't like me doing that, I won't bother. So what we're going to do is, first of all, take this paint. This airbrush has been thoroughly cleaned out. It's the first time it's been used since it was cleaned out, so I know it's all good. So just put a drop of that paint in there, and we're going to see how this performs. Now for this test, I'm going to use a new buster, and this is the Dragon M60 IDF with ERA. Awful kit. Absolutely. started finding errors, and then just it's terrible. I just put it back in its box. You can see I did it 4th of the 3rd 18, and then Meng came out with theirs, which is much nicer. So we can use this. I've modified the front, I've modified around here and everything. So this is going to be Buster for this operation. So 20 psi. This is the Iwata. So we'll just go down here and we'll see how it performs. Just lightly dusting it on, very lightly dusting it. You can see we've got no spitting, no puddling, no pooling. It's coming out really smooth. I can stop and start, all that sort of stuff. Go around there, getting all that bolt head detail, and yeah, it's doing really nice. So as I say, that's 20 psi. Now with this airbrush, I can't adjust the pressure unless I go to the actual compressor and adjust the valve on there. So there's an advantage with the Bart Sharp straight away. We can see here I've used the Iwata before. It's, you know, it's what I've always used for many years. It's 10 years old now, maybe 11 years old. It's doing a really good job, and it's absolutely great, and I love it to bits. Okay, so that's the Iwata. Right, so what we'll do now, wipe that off the side of the paint cup, and I'm going to put this in my spray booth, and in a minute I'll have to stop and clean it out. So from now on we're going to be using the Bart Sharp. So as you can see, what I'm doing first of all actually is put a drop of thinners through it, just in case there's any oils or anything left in it from manufacture. I want to make sure that it's nice and clean, so we'll just put a drop of thinners in there, just like that. I'm going to wash that around in here with a brush, just to make sure there's no as I say, residual manufacturing ganky stuff in there. Should have probably stripped it down and cleaned it. I'll put the cloth over the end, blow it through, and there we go. So as you can hear here with this valve, as I say, 20 psi, I can turn the pressure down, and I've also got my backstop as well I can set. So what we're going to do is have it open like that. Okay, we're not using the backstop, this is just a straightforward double action airbrush now. So I'm going to put some paint in. Okay, a bit too much there. Okay, in fact I'm going to pour some out because I don't want it all splashing all down the side of it. Wipe that off the side of the cup, just like that. Okay, and then this is the first time I've used this airbrush. This is fresh out of the box, so let's see how it goes. So straight away I can see it's a very fine spray coming out. We've got no spitting. Seems very nice indeed. All around that detail. If I go too heavy, it probably will puddle and pool. There we go. But as I say, it's really very nice indeed, which is what I would expect because it's brand new. The thing is with tools like this, it's the same with your nippers and knife blades and all that. It's not how good they are when they're brand new, it's how they work once they've been used a bit. Now, I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting this to be this good. It is really nice. Now I'm going to show you what this is for. I can turn the air pressure down. Okay, so I can get in now, do some really fine work. So if I want to do some kind of mottling or whatever, I can. Now the other thing is this backstop. I can use this backstop, wind it in, and I can only get that much paint. So I can basically go in, back, shut, in, back, shut, and that's too much. So I wind it in a bit more. In, I've wound it right in so I can't move it at all. There we go, just a little bit more. So you can see for your German type camouflage and stuff, for your motley effects, absolutely brilliant. Going really close. So also I want to show you, while you're on the airbrushing thing, if you're new to airbrushing, a lot of people do this. They go down, they go back, and they let off. Okay, go down. In fact, I'll open this up a bit more. They go down, they go back, let off. Go down, go back, let off. What happens when you do that is this. See when I sprayed that then, had initial spitting. So if I go down, back, let off, when I spray it next, see the spitting? That's because there's paint left on the end of the nozzle. What you do is you go down, back, forwards and up, and then you don't get the spitting, you see? If I go down like that and let off, next time I spray it, spit. Okay, if I go down, forward, let off, no spitting. Alright, so if you do get that, it's not a fault of an airbrush. It doesn't mean it's a cheap airbrush, it's you that's doing it, not the airbrush. The other time you'll get it is if the paint's building up on the nozzle because it's too thick. So, but I must admit, this is I've got that backstop there, which is great for beginners because you can see now I'm holding it, I'm able to go back. I'm not having to control the paint flow because I'm just up against the stop, but I'm able to actually use the airbrush and get a really nice light flow, which is much better than you're ever going to get with an aerosol can. Okay, if I want a bit more paint, I can wind that box stop out some more. I can get more paint. If I want to work faster, then I can. Turn the air pressure up. As you can see now, we're in a fast mode. This would be like for priming or whatever. So there we go. But you can see that trying to get that effect on here without using the, it's possible to do. But it's much easier if you bring the pressure down and use your backstop. I can just stay there for ages. Get a bit more pressure, a little bit more paint. There we go. You can see I'm getting that initial squirt of paint that's coming out. I mean, you could use that to your effect. I'll do like a random German. There we go. You can see the untidiness around the edges. That's where the paint's a little bit too thick, so you would thin it sort of 70% thinners, and it would give you a nice tighter line then. You could also use the smaller needle, of course, that you've got in there. So yeah, on the whole, generally this is going to be, you know, with the backstop off and your air pressure wound up, 20 psi, this is going to be your general spraying, camouflage, spraying a tank, whatever. This is where you're going to be. 20 psi, it's sort of 15-20 psi is good for everything. Okay, so there we are. So as far as that's concerned, really impressed. And just to show you some of the things as well that for beginners, if you go too close, okay, you get that. You can see that sort of starry effect on there. If you go too far, you don't get any paint on it at all. If you go too close, you get this puddling effect. You can see that there. It's really thick and horrible. You can go in there with the air then and blow it around, but I'm just going to use the air to dry it out so it doesn't run everywhere. But basically, if you go to, if I come back here, you'll see what happens as I come in. Okay, I'm going to aim to spray about here. So I'm not adjusting the paint flow, I'm just all the way in, and you can see about there is right. When you just start to see it wetting the surface, that's about right. So 4 or 5 inches away, 3-4 inches away, just like that. Okay, as I said, the tighter the detail, you want to get in close, get in like that. Use less air, use less paint, sorry, just don't pull back so much on the trigger. Okay, so somebody asked me if I would do a tutorial for airbrushing. It's a very basic one, but you know, it's a small tutorial nonetheless. But I would say if you're a beginner, you get yourself one of these, you can't go wrong because you've got everything you need. You've got your different needle sizes, you've got your stop there, you've got your pressure there. It's really, really good. You might even have a cheap compressor with no control over the airflow, you know. But it's certainly absolutely fine for this. I would say as a brand new airbrush, you know, it's every bit as good as Hiawatha, but as I said before, the thing is, what proves these things like this are any good is how long they last. Spares availability is another thing, and as I've already said, Dart Sharp claim to have all the spares. There we go, that's the 0.3 needle. So I'm going to change it over now to the 0.2 needle and see how it goes. Okay, so basically if you're doing a changeover for a different needle or something, but you're not changing the colour, then the airbrush doesn't really need a thorough clean out. What you can do, what I keep is a dirty old pot of thinners here. Okay, so I might initially put that through just to clean the cup out and then pour it back in. I don't spray it through the airbrush. I just clean the cup out with it like a cotton bud or something, and then put some clean thinners through. Now I tend to generally use Mr. Colour Leveling thinners to clean my airbrushes. I've never found an airbrush cleaner I like. So just basically put a drop of that in there. Okay, get your airline, wherever that is, fit the airline to it. I I put my finger over the end just to blow it back through, okay, and then just like that, go on with the cotton bud, clean the colour cup, make sure there's no residual paint in there, okay, and then blow through. Whoops, I don't want to go knock anything over here. I blow through into my airbrush cleaning station here. I've got that nozzle wound in, haven't I? So you can just blow that through like that, okay, and then what's left, just pour into your dirty thinners pot. Okay, so that's how I clean my airbrushes. Many people will say I'm doing it wrong, whatever, but that's how I've done it since I've been using airbrushes, which is about 30 years, so it hasn't done me any harm. So there we go, so that's that cleaned out now. Then what we're going to do is change the nozzle and the needle for a 0.2, so get rid of that. Right, so here we've got our paint, put that away so we don't spill it. So I'll take the air line off the airbrush. It's really handy having that quick connector, I must be honest. So we've got the end cap on here. Now this end cap here unscrews, okay, and if you're doing any really fine work you can actually use the airbrush without it, and then you can really get in, but you've got to be very careful not to damage it. You see the end of the needle sticking out on there? Okay, you can see it there. That needle is very, very fragile. You don't want to be damaging that. So what we're going to do is take this end cap off, remove that, undo this screw, and then we can pull the needle out. Okay. Now what we're going to do is just take our cloth and just give the needle a quick wipe, just like that. Okay. Always wipe it along its length. Never go around. Never go into it. And remember that is very, very sharp. It will stab you. It will cut you. Okay. And then this end cap here we can unscrew. And then inside there, that will reveal our needle, our nozzle, sorry. Okay, so be very careful with the nozzle. You get a little spanner. Just put the little spanner on there and just undo the nozzle. Okay, now what you can do is a good habit to get into is put a little piece of vinyl pipe over the end of the needle, the nozzle, and use that to unscrew it once it's loosened. And that saves also the nozzle getting damaged. Now keep all those three together, because those three parts there all go together. They're all 0.3, and you can see here we've got the same over here now, 0.2. So I've got the 0.2mm nozzle, so that's going to go in there. I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever airbrushed with a 0.2 needle. If you notice, I'm not trying to screw the nozzle into the airbrush, I'm just trying to screw the airbrush onto the nozzle. I don't like the feel of that. That's better. Okay, and then we're just going to take our spanner. I don't like the feel of that at all, that doesn't feel right. As I said, this was all banging around in the box, so the thread may have got damaged. I'm going to have a look at my magnifier, see if I can do any repairs or whatever, and then I'll come back when it's done. Okay, and panic over, it's nothing to worry about. It's just literally a slightly tight thread. So obviously the thread is at the top of its tolerance, and maybe the thread in the bore is at the bottom of its tolerance or whatever. Just a little bit tight. So I tend to be, I'm an engineer, I tend to be very, very careful with threads. I can't stand these electric bloody tools that everybody uses now. You can't feel if a thread's tightening up or whatever. I'd like to use hand tools on everything. If you watch my Land Rover, you'll see what I mean. So anyway, there we go. So that's the nozzle attached. Now, what you will see some people say is what you need to do is take the nozzle off and feed the needle in from this direction, okay? And that avoids you any risk of damaging the front of the needle. I totally disagree, because inside here there is generally a rubber or a neoprene seal that goes around. And as you can see, this end of the airbrush is sharp. You could indeed radius it off. If you put it through as it is, it's likely to cut the seal. So I always go in this way. Okay, never damaged the needle yet, so you know, not going to worry about damaging anything going forward. Okay, so put that in there, lock that up. If you notice, when I put that through, you can see it. I'm pushing it through here, it's going easy, and then it goes tight. That's where it's on that seal. Okay, and then just push it until you feel it come up against the in fact it's too tight on that seal. what I'm going to do here is use an Iwata product, which I have here. And this is a lubrication for the needle. Now it's worth having this. It's designed to lubricate that seal. Okay, so I'm going to put some on here. Just want a tiny drop. Just so that, and what it'll do, it'll lubricate that seal and make life a lot easier for us. So put the needle in there. Okay, just push the needle up to the nozzle. It's still too tight, it doesn't want to come back. There we go, it's working now. That oil will get into it and it'll sort it out. Let's give it a twist. Okay, so I've got this all apart now, so you've seen the whole thing come apart basically. So basically this thing here, this screws in, and as you can see that's what alters your spring pressure that's on your needle. So this is actually pushing the needle back and you're working against it when you pull the trigger back. Now I said about that thing that's like a donut, it's inside here, and if you look down in there you can see there is a brass slotted screw with a hole in the middle of it, and that is it. So basically what you do, if that is too tight, okay, I just got a small flat screwdriver, just go in, grab the flats, okay, so just slacken it off so it's not too tight, and then what you can do is put the needle in there. I don't want to damage the needle, it's too dodgy, I'm going to damage the needle if I press that in there. So we're going to put this trigger, now this is the plunger that allows the air to come up through, so that's going to go down into that hole in there. Okay, make sure that's springing back, hold that in place. This little piece on the front of here, hook that in there, that will go in and then it'll come up through the top. You can see it's coming through the top here. Okay, and then wind this in. Okay, and then you can wind that into where you like. I'm going to go back up to there halfway just for now and do that there. I'm going to put the needle in. Okay, and there it is, and as you can see now it's a lot easier for me to move, so I can tighten that up, and now okay, it's easier for it all works fine. So that's just, it's just a minor adjustment, and it's just something you need to know. It's what they don't tell you in the instructions, so I'm telling you on here. So we'll put that over there and we'll put the end cap on because that'll protect the needle. So there we go. So that is our airbrush now, rebuilt with a 0.2 needle. So we can put this end cap on here. Now check that moves smoothly. Sometimes I've got one of the cheap Chinese and this is black plastic, and if I turn this on tight I can't move the needle back. I have loosened it half a turn. It's because the threads aren't turned correctly. It basically affects it. So what we'll do is we'll just do that. We'll just check our air. Yeah, everything's great. Still got a bit of paint coming out of there. So I'm just going to once again check that I did actually get the needle seated correctly. Yes, I did. So we'll put that cap on there. Okay, and we'll put this out there. Now I'm going to keep all of this over here together because that is my 0.3 stuff. Okay, so we're not going to lose any of that. We do not want to get anything mixed up. So what we'll do is we'll get some paint, same mix, pour that in there, same paint, just push some paint back through. If you mix your paint in your airbrush, always put your finger over the end or a bit of cloth over the end, just like that, because otherwise if you put the thinners in first, this area of the airbrush down here is full of paint or full of thinners, and when you first spray you won't get the mix. So let's see how this goes. So I've got the air pressure is wound right out, the backstop is wound right off. So I'm going to come in, quite honest, I don't see a lot of difference using it like that in the 0.3 and the 0.2. So we'll turn the air pressure down, we'll bring our end stop in a bit, and we'll see what it's like for doing that mottling effect. You see, this is another way of doing it now. If you notice, I'm keeping the air going, keeping my finger on the air, not letting go. So just on the air, come back, on the air, just staying down and just putting it back to bring the paint in. Let's bring the air pressure down a bit more. Yeah, now the paint's a little too thick, it needs to be a little thinner to get the nice effect. But I will show you all that in future videos, using this for weathering and stuff. But you can see that you can get down to a very fine line. As I say, the paint is too thick. What I think I'll do, if I just pour some out of there, oops, that's right, I'm doing it on camera. Let's just put that in there out of the way, clean up these spills. Get that cleaned up. Right, so we get that out of the way. Now I'm going to grab some of my Tamiya lacquer thinners and I'm going to add some in here. Now I don't tend to measure things out, but I've got a bit of paint in there, so I'm going to add, I don't know, another couple of drops of thinner. So this is probably like 70% thinners now, 50% paint. And as I said, I've done a mix. So what I'm going to do is put my finger over the end, just pull back like that, turn the air up a bit. That's better. It's done it again. Determined to make a mess on camera. And there we go. So that's that all mixed up now. Okay. So now we can come in with our air, and then we should be able to get a much nicer, finer line. There we go. So as you can see here, if you come along here, you can come in and get a very fine line. And I'd probably get even finer than that actually. If you take the end off, come in really close. You can hear it spitting, it's where it's too thick. You can see we're getting a yeah, I think this is where the quality of your hardened steam mat and your Iwetas and stuff shows. I don't think this is going to be so good for the finer stuff. Well, it's okay there, look. I think the paint is perhaps a little thick, but we can see, I mean, if I polish the needle it'll probably be a lot better. But you can see, I mean, it depends how fine you want to get with your airbrush, but if you want anything finer than that, if you know, if you're doing that German sort of camouflage on a 48 scale aircraft, you know, again, you can use this backstop to reduce the amount of paint. And backstop in a bit more. I've got no paint at all. There we go. So if you're doing that sort of German camouflage, you know, with the light grey over the dark grey, I think I'm getting a bit of tip dry here. There we go. That's the kind of pattern you're after. Come in a bit closer, get it all tighten up a bit. Okay, yeah, I'm getting tip dry, I think. I think the paint is actually drying on the tip. But if we come back, turn the air up, bring that back, we can see we can just use it. General spraying. So once again, you know, if you damage your 0.3, you've got your 0.2 to go back to. I'm going to be completely honest, as I always am with my reviews, the Iwata is a far better performer for the finer close-up stuff, but it's nearly 3 times the price of this kit, and with the Iwata you only get one needle. So you can still, even with a tiny needle, you can still flood it on, still get it too wet. Okay, so there we are. So we'll give this a clean out, we'll change to the 0.5 and we'll try some of that Stynel Res primer on there. Okay, so I've changed over now the Bart Sharp. I've got the 0.5 needle and nozzle assembly in there. That went together absolutely fine, no hiccups whatsoever. The thread wasn't at all tight and the needle wasn't at all tight in the packing, so all good there. The only thing I noticed on here, I will just take it apart and show you before I use it. If you look at the end of the needle, you can see it has a kind of finish to it. You can see it there. Now, I have seen there is a video on YouTube about how to improve your cheap airbrush, and it talks about polishing the needle, and I haven't watched it, but I will watch it and we'll see what happens. Because I think some of that spattering we had with that 0.2 was probably because the needle wasn't polished, but we shall see. So anyway, we've got the 0.5 needle in there. We're not going to worry about any throttle stops or having reduced air pressure, because this is all about this stuff. This stuff is MIG one-shot primer. You can get the same stuff from AK. It's actually Badger Stynylrez. If you look on the back, it says here, made in USA. Okay, that tells you this stuff is Badger Stynylrez. Now we all know, well, you may not know, this stuff is great when it's brand new, and as time goes on it thickens up and it becomes a bit of a pain in the ass to spray. And to be honest with you, it's a great, if you're into acrylics and you want to use acrylic primers, this stuff is probably the best out there. But the, like your Mr. Surfacers and stuff are far superior, but they're a lot more poisonous, so a lot more smelly. The other thing is, I never use this stupid flip top cap design, because as you can see, like I don't know, yeah, as you can see, it dried up paint on there that ends up getting into your jar, so into your paint cup. So don't use them, just pour it straight out of the bottle. You still get that dried up edge stuff on the edge there, which you can wipe off with a cloth, but basically just try and pour it out of a clean bit. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'll show you how it works in the Iwata. So this is where I'm expecting the Bart Shop to be better. Okay, you can see straight away how thick that paint is. Now, there's been some controversy about what you use to thin it with. I've used it with this stuff, I've thinned it with this stuff, and it's worked absolutely fine. And then I tried it again, and it didn't work at all. So I don't know what's going on there. But somebody did suggest using Tamiya acrylic thinners to thin it. I think that was what they said. So I'll give that a go one day. But basically, I think what I'll do is use just this paint here. So what we're going to do is try and spray this with the Iwata. Remember, this is a 0.3 or a 0.35 nozzle, I can't remember, it's whatever comes standard. So 20 psi, okay, you can see we're getting a nice fine spray. But the other thing you may notice, it's a little bit dry, it's not getting enough paint down. Okay, and I don't know if you can see it on there, I don't think you can pick it up, but it's a little bit dry and dusty. With this stuff you really want to be sort of getting down. If you try and go too mad, it just, look at that, it's performing beautifully, which is, there we go, it's blocked up. So you've got no paint coming out at all, you've got to come away, spraying away like that. It won't do it again now because the camera's on, but you saw it just then, it just stopped. It just completely blocked up and stopped painting, and you can see it's very inconsistent. 1 minute it's hardly coming out, next minute it's flooding on. Okay, so 0.3 needle is really too small. I think they actually tell you to use a 0.5 needle. Best applied with 0.3 or larger nozzle airbrush, 20 to 30 psi from a distance of 10 to 15 centimeters. So, you know, yeah, you could get away with a 0.3 nozzle, but I know I've had problems with it in the past. And this is going extremely well, which is not what I expected at all. So what we'll do is we'll pour this out of here. We'll pour this into the Bart Sharp. It's so thick, I don't think there's going to be enough in there. I need to get some more. But anyway, we'll put that in there. I've now got two airbrushes I have to keep upright. So we'll put that down there on a cloth and let that drain out. We'll get the airline attached to this one. With a little bit of paint, we should be able to see how good this is. And you can see straight away I'm getting a much finer coating, and you can see that it's going on wet. You can see it's shiny, it's staying wet, but it's a very fine coat. I'm not having to pile it on to get rid of that powdery finish, and that is the beauty of the 0.5 needle. It's just allowing so much more air and fluid to pass around it because it's got a much bigger surface area. Okay, so we'll just get some more out of here. Just pour that in there. And it really is a good primer. It's beautiful stuff, but it's just such a pain to work with if you don't have the right equipment. And obviously it's not as good as the lacquer type primers. You can see there it's spraying this beautifully, and it's not building up. I'm not getting any wet areas. It is going down really, really nice. You can put it down very, very finely, got really fine details and stuff. Yeah, very impressed with that. Very impressed indeed. Works a treat. And if you want to flood it on, you still can. You can really pile it on. Just like that, really, really wet. And you can put loads down. No spattering, no nothing. It's run out now. So yeah, I'm in love with that. That's brilliant. So for 0.5 needle performance, absolutely amazing, much better than the Iwata. But no doubt if I put a 0.5 needle and nozzle in the Iwata, it would perform just as well. The only trouble is, it would probably cost me twice the price of this to replace the needle and nozzle in this. So there you go. So I'll give them both a good clean out now, and then I'll come back. Okay, so as I say, to give an initial clean out, what I will do, I will come along with my pipette and I'll take some of this dirty, filthy thinners out of there. It's a mixture of xylene and all sorts. And then I'll come in here with a brush. Now a lot of people don't like to put a brush or anything in their airbrush, and that's basically because you could get a bristle come off in there or whatever. But if you're going to thoroughly clean it out like I'm going to do now, show you how to do it, then basically you've got nothing to worry about. Just get that in there. Okay, not going to blow it through the airbrush because it's got all sorts of crud in it. Alright, and that's just to give your cup an initial wash. Okay, we'll do the same on the other one. Do the same on the Iwata. Get some of that in there, just like that. It's good. The airline's right behind me and it's trying to pull the airbrush out of my hands all the time. So we'll get in there like that, clean that out. Okay, just get some on the outside, give that outer cup a clean off. Okay, and then just pour that back in there. Alright, and then what you can do then is come along with a cotton bud if you want to. Again, maybe not advisable because you do get bits of fluff come off, but I'm giving this a thorough clean now, so it doesn't really matter. If you're doing a colour change, I probably would avoid it. I'll come in there with a cotton bud, do the same in that one, give that a clean out, and then throw the cotton bud away. Never reuse cotton buds. So now what we can do is come along with our clean thinners. I should really get another pipette, but I don't want to stop the video. So we'll go into there with that one. Okay, again with the brush, just brush all that around, just like so, and then we can blow some through, backflow it, whatever. Okay, blow some into our cleaning station. And that's just giving the inside of the airbrush a general clean out, and then I'm basically going to pour that into there. Okay, put this one down. Change over the air fittings. Just like that. And then pour that into there with the dirty stuff. Okay, and that's the initial clean. Now if you're just doing a colour change, that would be absolutely fine. So what I've done here, I've got a tuna tin with some xylene in it. Okay, so we'll do the Iwata first. Don't need the airline anymore. So what I'm going to do is take the end cap off into the xylene, take the nozzle cover off into the xylene, excuse me, take the nozzle off into the xylene, and then we can take the back off, pull the needle out. I'm not going to leave that in the xylene, but I'm just going to get some on there and just wipe it off. And that's the needle cleaned. Okay, the other thing, if you want to clean your needle and make sure it's really thoroughly clean, get a cotton bud into your xylene or whatever. You should be wearing gloves with this. I never worry about it. My hands will probably fall off before I'm 60. So there we go, that's our nozzle nice and clean. So that's the Iwata. We'll keep that over here. You can see we've still got bits of residue of grey paint and everything in there. So what you can do is put the end of your airbrush into the pot like that. You can see as I turn it around, you can see it running out. That's giving it a good swirl through. Okay, and then get in there. The other thing is this Badger Steiner res is a nightmare to clean out, so it's not really a good representation. This is a lot more difficult than it would be if it was like Tamiya paint or something. So we can get in there, clean that through, and you can get your brushes and go in there. I've got some brushes here. Where are they? There they are. I haven't prepared as usual. Get the brush in there, soak it in some xylene, get up inside, and then brush out the inside of the passage where the paint goes through. And then just swill it off. Okay, now some people like to use ultrasonic cleaners to clean their airbrushes. As I said, I'm an engineer, and in my last job at a dental company, dental burr manufacturer, I was responsible for the cleaning area, and they were all ultrasonic cleaners, and I can tell you they can be very, very aggressive. If we use the wrong programs, like the wrong frequencies or whatever, we could actually end up with the dental burrs having rings on them where the dental burrs would rotate against each other because of the vibration. So if you are using ultrasonics, be very careful. All the parts will vibrate together and you could end up with damage. So that's all been soaking in there. It's only a couple of minutes, that's all it needs. So I'm going to grab a pair of tweezers. Okay, and then again with a cotton bud, go in there, give that a clean out. You can see we've got black and grey coming out of there, so that's all worth doing. So that's nice and clean. I'm going to grab my nozzle cover. Okay, into the back of there with a cotton bud. And what I also do sometimes is grab a cocktail stick. No, I haven't got one out ready. Grab a cocktail stick, and in the back of there, very gently, don't push it hard, just gently go in there, and I'll get any paint that's in that part out. Okay, so that's that done. Now you can see my hands are so disgusted all the time, guys. Okay, and then we're going to grab our needle, our nozzle. So I keep calling it needle, don't I? Just grab our nozzle, just like so, and drop it again. Okay, now this is an Iwata airbrush, so we know that all the seals are going to be very resilient to solvents and stuff, so we don't have to worry about it. But with the cheaper ones, like with this Bart Sharp, I'm not sure if it's going to withstand it. Maybe Alison will drop me an email and tell me if they actually will withstand it. So what we can do with that one, because we've now got the luxury of another airbrush, I can take my airline, connect it to there, and just blow it through. Okay, that's that job done. So we can put this nozzle back in here, just like so. Grab the little spanner, happens to be the same size as an Iwata, so use either the Bart Sharp or the Iwata spanner. Give that a little nip. Okay, that's that done. Alright, and then this cover will go on here. And then our end cap can go on there. Replace the needle, the needle, yeah. Make sure you push that down when you push the needle, otherwise you'll damage the front of the needle. Just push it up to the back of the nozzle, take the end cover, screw it back on, and that's your airbrush cleaned. And you can see down in there, it's all lovely and clean and bright and shiny. Okay, so I'll do the same now on the Bart Sharp, and then I'll come back. Okay then guys, so just one more thing, get the Iwata out of the way. I forgot to mention the obviously this one's got the removable paint cups, so you need to make sure you take that out and give that a good clean. If you're just going to use the same paint cup all the time, I'd recommend doing it every now and again, because what you'll get is a build-up of paint down in here around the bottom, and it will ruin your O-ring in there. Basically, also get the O-ring out, just basically get under it and lift it out without damaging your threads. Okay, leave that out for the minimum amount of time possible, because obviously it's going to grow with solvents on it. Get in there with a cotton bud, get in there with some cotton bud with a solvent, and really get in there and give those threads a nice clean. And as I say, get that O-ring back in there as quick as you can, because otherwise it will grow and it won't fit back in there. Same with the paint cup, get in there, give the threads a good clean. I'm just going to push this paint cup in there and screw it in just to make sure the O-ring is properly seated. Down in the bottom, there we go. So now we can see there that the O-ring is pushed down into the bottom there and nicely seated. So there we go, so we can put it all away, get our box and put the paint cup away, put our airbrush back in there. Now, unfortunately, because of that on there, it won't fit back in properly, but it goes in like that anyway. And there we are. We can put the plastic cover back in, wherever that may be. Here it is here. Put that in there, and then close the lid down, save it for a rainy day. So there we go, guys. That has been the Bart Sharp airbrush. It's the actual kit, number 12 I think it was called. Absolute bargain. I'm really impressed. For 50 quid, you know, it's just incredible. You know, when you consider the cost of an Iwata and Iwata spares and everything. If you are new to the hobby and you want to get into airbrushing, this is a great way to start. If you're a professional and you want you know what I mean by professional experience modeler, and you want something to, you know, to tide you over, just as a spare airbrush or whatever, I thoroughly recommend it. I think the 0.3 needle is every bit as good as the Iwata, but as I say, the proof comes with the pudding with these cheaper airbrushes is the life. The 0.5 is amazing. I was a little disappointed with the 0.2, but as I said, in mine the 0.2 parts were sort of flopping around in the box a bit, so you know, the needle may have got damaged, not the needle, the nozzle may have got slightly damaged, I don't know. But maybe the paint was a bit too thick, maybe the air pressure was a little bit low. But going forward, I'll be doing some modelling using this and using the Iwata as well. So, you know, going forward, we'll see both in action, and I will let you know how it performs. And as I say, I always give an honest review. I will not say something is good just because I got some money off or because I got it for free or whatever. And anybody that does actually give me a discount or give me anything for free, they know that I will tell the truth. And I'm telling you now that I think this, for the money, is an absolute bargain. No, it's not as good as Iwata. Of course it isn't. If it was, they could charge 4 times the price for it. So, you know, because all this from Iwata would cost you about 300 quid, I should think. But basically, yeah, very impressed, especially for £50. I'd be impressed if it was £100. Now, I have just looked on their website just to confirm the price. It was £50.99, and they've only got 4 left in stock. And Alison was saying to me the other day, because remember I mentioned about a discount code. Unfortunately, she's unable to do it because at the moment they are suffering with shipping fees and everything, as everyone is. So discounts at the moment are out of the question, I'm afraid. But I did notice she's got 4 left, so if you want to get yourself one, you might want to get on her and order it now, because I don't know when she's got the next lot coming in. But you've seen me use it, take it apart, you've seen me clean it. I've told you the good and the bad points. You know, it's not going to be a Rolls Royce, of course it isn't, but it's bloody good value for money. So honestly, if you're new to the hobby or just need another airbrush, get an order yourself one. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.